Shalom Aleichem, my name is Chaim Itzkowitz from Brooklyn, New York. You guys know me because I'm in Yeshiva with you, but people online don't necessarily know who I am. That's why I have to introduce myself every time I speak. This class is called The Seven Wonders of Jewish History, an oldie but a goodie. It was originally developed by HaTorah from Aish HaTorah. It has been given over to hundreds of thousands of people over the last probably 25, 30 years. I obviously put my own twist on it, but this is a basic class. We're going to go through 7 things that happened that the Torah said is going to happen. And only the person who wrote the Torah can know the possible ending. So let's get into it. There was a conversation between a fellow by the name of King King Louis and Blaise Pascal. Blaise Pascal is famous for Pascal's theorem, I believe it's called. Wager and theorem, if you know mathematics or you know philosophy, whichever you have in the room, we'll join you together. And King Louis was an atheist. Obviously, Blaise Pascal was a religious person, and they would debate over croissants. One day, King Louis says to Blaise Pascal, show me a miracle. He probably said, show me a miracle, yeah? Inspector Clouseau. So he says, show me a miracle. And he says, you're Jews, Their Majesty. You're the Jews. The Jews are a miracle? What does he mean? Why would he say that we are a miracle? Anybody want to venture a guess? Statistically impossible. The fact that we exist, very good. We are supernatural. So now what I'm going to try to be doing is trying to prove to you that it could not have come from a human being and that it had to come from divine, from somebody who knows the end. Obviously, we know HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So I'm going to have to prove to you that it did not come from a human being, rather the fact that it came from God. God. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example. The example is, imagine I came up to you outside 7-Eleven and I said, listen. In about 5 minutes, the ground is going to open up, and out of the ground is going to come 7 golden chariots. And they're going to circle your head. They're going to fly off into the distance. You're going to think I'm crazy. But 5 minutes later, you start feeling the ground rumbling. And 6 golden chariots come out. You say, I thought there was 7. And then a 7th one comes out, circles your head, and flies off into the distance. I have a lot of reading over here. If you want to read it, obviously some people are visual learners, some people are audio learners, so you can read it on the screen. I'm saying pretty much what's on the screen. Okay? At this point, after you see this occurrence, you see the unbelievable experience of the chariots coming out of the ground and flying into space. How many questions should you have at this point? Number 1, what in the world just happened? How in the world is this possible? And number 2, how could I or the person have possibly predicted such an event? It's come out impossible. Okay? So it's just, the fact that these things happened is a wonder unto its own, but the fact that it was predicted beforehand just takes it above and beyond. Let's get started. There's an important pasuk in the beginning of Ha'azinu, the importance of knowing history, learning histories. Remember the days of old, understand the meaning of each generation. Ask your father and he shall instruct you, your elders and they shall tell you. It's very important that Torah stresses you must learn history, because when you study history you understand how it does not make sense that we exist. Okay, there are 2 very clear phenomena. One is the Jews are Hashem's chosen people. Non-Jews knows this as well as Jews alike. The Jews are Hashem's chosen people. There's no way around it. They don't necessarily like it, but they know it. And the second one is the author of the Torah had to have complete knowledge and control of all of history. That is without a doubt, obviously, as we're going to soon see. Let's go to Marky Mark. Mark Twain, he wrote in a famous letter, what? That was Mark Twain. It said Mark Twain. Yeah, I know. He wrote in a famous letter, "In the 60s are right, the Jews constitute but 1% of the human race. It's just a nebulous dim puff of a stardust lost in the blaze of the Milky Way. Probably the Jews, harder to be heard of, but he is heard of. He has always been heard of. He is as prominent on the planet as any other people, and his commercial importance is extravagantly out of proportion to the smallness of his bulk. His contributions to the world's list of great names in literature, science, art, music, finance, medicine, abstruse learning are also way out of proportion to the weakness of his numbers. He has made marvelous find in this world in the ages, and has done with his hands tied behind him. He could be vain of himself and be excused for it. The Egyptian, the Babylonian, the Persian rose, filled the planet with sound and splendor, then faded to dream of, passed away. The Greeks and Romans followed and made a vast noise, and they are gone. Other people have sprung up and held their torch high for a time, but it burned out, and they sit in twilight now or have vanished. The Jews saw them all, beat them all, and is now doing what it always was, exhibiting no decadence, no infirmities of age, no weakening of its parts, no slowing of its energies, no dulling of his alert and aggressive mind. All things are mortal but the Jew. All others forces, but he remains. What is the secret of his immortality? Mark Twain. If you didn't get that, I'll summarize. He goes through every single people that have been in earth, have controlled, and they all passed away. The Jews, smallest numbers, they didn't stop. They made contributions to every aspect of the world. All things are mortal, but the Jew. Yeah? All things are immortal, but the Jew. All other forces pass, but he remains. What is the secret of immortality? Why did I bring up Mark Twain? Because non-Jews fascinate us when they, like when on a movie or a TV show, you shouldn't watch movies, stay in school. But on movies and such things, it's very, no drugs, no 420. On movies, when they talk about Jews, when they make a reference to a Jew, we get interested. We're fascinating how they perceive us. That's why I wanted to bring Mark Twain. So, we're not going to be merely discussing 7 isolated events, rather ones that contradict the other in prophecies, in the voice, and the fact that they came true. Now, let's explore the 7 wonders. Very good. Wonder number 1. Oh, you should be an eternal nation. Hashem is saying, I will make a covenant with you. You will be an eternal nation. Who is Hashem speaking to? Avram. Very good. Another few psukim. You'll never fade. The bris that I gave you, you'll remember the bris that I took out of Mitzrayim. Beautiful. Hashem said, you're going to be an eternal nation. Okay, good selling point. Good start. They were an eternal nation. One problem is, if it didn't happen, no. And also, maybe we could say other nations are also eternal. How many nations can we call eternal today? Let's say Japan. How did Japan remain eternal? They remained eternal by being isolated, by being on their own island, so they stayed to themselves. Did we do that? Obviously not. We were in the Middle East. What about China? China! How did China, if you want to say they're eternal, how did they do it? With millions upon billions of people. I don't know exactly how many people are in China, but it's a lot. The most fascinating thing is, when you try to invade China, you become Chinese. They automatically take you in for surgery, fix your eyes, and you are Chinese now. It's the most fascinating thing. Maybe you want to mention India. What? Excuse me. Yeah. Maybe the Arabs, I don't know if you want to call them eternal, but what usually defines, sustains a nation? What are the qualities of a nation? If you want to call, we're a nation, whatever that means. Obviously, we know common land, a spoken language would join a nation together. Culture, right? Culture would join a nation together. Customs, every country in the world needs its customs, right? It needs its customs. An army, whatever the army is. These are things that join together a nation. So if we had all these things, then it would make sense, right? That we're eternal, right? Next wonder. Wonder number 2. Exile, scattering, and wandering. Says, take a look in the Teicha in Parashat B'chukaisai. All the things that are going to happen if we get exiled, and what's going to happen if we don't listen to Hashem. The Jewish people were exiled not once, but twice from Eretz Yisrael. They survived. Obviously, after the first one, they came back. And they were exiled again. Okay, there's 2 unique aspects to Jewish exile to Jewish galus. Number 1, the only nation exiled twice from their original land. The Jewish people were not only exiled from the land, but they were exiled twice. No other nation ever suffered it. Why? If you exile the entire Toronto and you move them to New York, within 3 generations, they are now New Yorkers. They are not going to be identifying themselves as Torontonians, obviously. And obviously, why would they? Anyway, and the second one is the only nation ever to survive or return a previous galus. Obviously, a prerequisite to having a second galus is by having to be able to survive the first galus. Because, and like we said, if Toronto moves to New York, you're not identifying as a Torontonian because you're not going to be able to get back to the original. No one's staying true to who they are, so you won't be able to get back to the original galus, original country. Excuse me. Next thing is to be scattered. Okay, fine. Fine, you're going to be exiled, you're going to be scattered. In addition to all that, you're going to be scattered. Obviously, the Torah spells out that you're going to be scattered all the way to the four corners of the earth. We see the psukim. It'll be from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth. Okay? So you're going to say, how will Jews survive the exile? Maybe if they were exiled from here and went to another place, now they're going to stay strong there. The Torah says no. The Torah says they're going to be scattered all around. So what are you going to tell me? First of all, where are Jews? Jews are, hey, there's a laser on it, cool. Jews are everywhere. Jews are everywhere in the world. Scattered. So you're going to tell me, fine. Let's say they're exiled, they're scattered amongst the entire world. What if each community stays where they are and stays strong? But wait, there's more. Not only are you going to be scattered, but you're going to be wandering, meaning you're not going to stay in one place. That obviously is a much harder kiyum, say yeshivish, much harder kiyum of eternal nation if you're going to be exiled and scattered, and then on top of that, wandering, right? We know the Torah is going to tell us you're going to be wandering. You won't have a foot to stand on. You'll be going from place to place. Okay? There's something called the wandering Jew. It's a stereotype, but there's something called the wandering Jew where Jews never stay put. If you look in Flatbush in Brooklyn, they came in originally when they came to the United States. They were in Williamsburg. They were in the East Side. Brownsville maybe. Now those communities are gone. Williamsburg, obviously not the current Williamsburg of the Hasidim. Before that it was a Litvish community. Brownsville's gone. Now it's Flatbush. Now Flatbush, you can look, it's even moving out to North Waterbury. It's moving out to Tom's River. Obviously a certain kind of balabus. But what? Got to represent. But the fact is, most communities are not lasting more than 50, 60 years where the people are. People are always moving around communities. No one is ever lazy. You'll never have a foot to stand on. If you go around Manhattan, especially in the Lower East Side, you'll see buildings that they cannot tear down because of zoning issues, whatever it is. They're landmarks. Landmarks, thank you. And you could see what it was. And now there's Commando community. It's mainly Chinese in the Lower East Side. So the author of the Torah seemed to like really big challenges. He liked the fact that even though we're going to survive being an eternal nation, although we had no land, no unity, no physical stability. So how can we say that we're still here? How can we reconcile this? It doesn't make any sense. Maybe if the entire world loved us and wanted to preserve Jewish identity, the Jews in general, maybe you'll say, maybe the Jews, it makes sense. Even though they're exiled, scattered, and wandered, the Jews will still be here. What's the next wonder? Anti-Semitism, MK. The very need for the word anti-Semitism is very, very hard to understand. We have other words for hatred of other people. We have bigotry, xenophobia, racism. Yeah? If you hate a black person, you're called a racist. You hate a Chinese, you're called a racist. You hate whatever it is, you are a racist. You hate a Jew, anti-Semite. The very term anti-Semitism is very, very difficult to understand. Now, there was a study done by a Professor Cohn. Professor Cohn was from England, and he wanted to show people that even if you never met a Jew, you'll still be okay. I think I have a picture of Professor Cohn. Yeah, there we are. Professor Cohn came out he wanted to show people that even if you never met a Jew, you'll still be fine with hating him. And that's when he came out with his hit single. Hold on, we have to get to the... Do you hear what he's saying? Just listen to what he's saying. He's in a hick town in the middle of Alabama or who knows where. These people have never met a Jew. And they have no problem singing along to this song. This is probably the most anti-Semitic song you've ever heard. He's a Jew. He wanted to show people that I'm going to go into it and they're going to sing along and they're not going to have a problem with that. Imagine if he got up and said, throw the midgets down the well. You can't say that. That's racist. That's terrible. Whoops. Throw the Jew down the well.
Isn't he Jewish?
He is Jewish. That's
Come on, bro. Let's find him.
We have to do Kiruv, right? And they are getting involved. They are getting into it. They're singing along. Mamish mit the hearts. They don't care that the fact is you're throwing Jews down a well. Does that make any sense to us? and we'll have a big party. I know it's a problem. This conversation with Ricky Gervais and Jerry Seinfeld on his show called Comedians, Cars, Getting Coffee. Have another listen quickly. Whether or not what you're allowed to joke about.
Very unfair. How can you possibly win against the massive population? It's tricky. It's so subjective. It's tricky. You can never hurt the Chinese. It's tricky. You don't really think all Chinese people are the same. No, but if people make comments on the internet, this is your offense. It doesn't mean you're right. Is there any way out? You can go to jail. Hey, come on. Makes sense for the exciting conclusion of Ricky Gervais. China, maybe?
Okay, so I don't know if you got from that conversation, they are arguing whether or not you're allowed to leave a joke, a racist joke in, but I don't know if this conversation would be the same thing if you made a Semitic joke in. Okay, you're going to say Jerry Seinfeld's Jewish, but it doesn't make a difference. The fact is they're handling whether or not this is racist, whether or not we can leave this in or not. Okay, anti-Semitism does not make sense on any level. There are 4 different aspects to anti-Semitism. One is universality. Where have we been hated? Here's just a short list of where we've been kicked out of from in Europe. England, France, Hungary, Austria, Germany, Lithuania, Spain, Portugal, Bohemia, and Moravia. And obviously in the Middle East, Aden, Algeria, Egypt, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen. We've been kicked out of, come out everywhere. How intense is it? Pretty intense, right? The clearest example is going to be the Holocaust, where it was the only time that war was waged against, genocide against an entire mass of people, men, women, children, with horrific and the most disgusting ways. I think they did not like the Jews. It was kind of intense. Obviously, we're going to put it in a Zecher. We'll never forget the 6 million Kedoshim who gave their lives on Kiddush Hashem. How long have we been hated? Obviously, ever since the Torah, the Gemara says, ever since the Matan Torah, the Sinna, Har Sinai, Tikra Sinna, that there has been hated ever since. Romans, Greeks, everybody, the Roman Empire, the Christian world, the pogroms, the Crusades, Middle Ages, and obviously Soviet Russia, as we see in Germany. What about irrationality? It's irrational. First of all, you'll say in America they would call a Jew a communist, and the same Jew will get arrested in Russia for being a capitalist. It doesn't make any sense. It's irrational how much they hate us. It doesn't make any sense. So let me ask you guys a question. How can we reconcile Jewish survival if the entire world hates us? It doesn't make any sense, right? Maybe if there were so many of us, they don't have a choice, we'll survive. Wonder number 4, the Jewish people left few in number. You'll be left few in number, which is now, like we said, exile, scattering. We said eternal nation. Then we said exile, scattering, and wandering. You'd be all over the place. How are we going to say that? Maybe everybody likes them. No, anti-Semitism. So how are they going to survive now? Maybe if there's so many of them, even if everybody hates them, who really cares? Torah tells us, no, it's going to be, you'll remain few in number. Okay, is it a contradiction? Yes, it is. You shall remain few in number. Well, duh. It seems to be an inherent contradiction. The Torah tells us that the Jews will be around for thousands of years. The numbers will be very large. Let's take the Roman trend, okay? We're going to follow it. 2,000 years ago, the Roman Empire had 44 million people. Today, 2 billion descendants. At the same time, there were about 4 million Jews. How many should we have? We should have about 200 million today. How many Jews do we actually have? 14.8 million Jews. My friend was actually on an airplane, and he was sitting next to a couple. Cool. I have no idea who these people are. Google images. So a friend of mine was on an airplane. He's sitting next to a non-Jewish couple. They're going to tour in Israel. And he strikes up a conversation. He's actually a Kiruv rabbi. Yeah. And he strikes up a conversation and says, how many Jews do you think there are in the world? And they said, I don't know, 2, 3, 400 million. My friend says, no. A mere 14.8 million. And she says to him, why in the world are you people always in the newspapers? And he said, because we own them. Okay, so if over 90% of the Jewish people can disappear, as we see, then it doesn't seem logical. It seems illogical to say that 100% of people can't disappear, right? What type of author of the Torah would write such a thing that over 3,000 years have full control, that will be able to freeze the numbers at a low number, even though it defies social sciences? But then you're going to tell me, for sure, they will not be able to have an impact on the world. They're so small, they're exiled, scattered, and wandered. Everybody hates them. There's no way they're going to have an impact on the world, correct? What's wonder 5? A light unto the nations. I'll make you a great nation. Obviously, I want to focus on the pasuk in Yeshaya. Ani Hashem kirasicha b'tzedek v'achzeh b'yadcha v'etzarcha v'etnacha l'vris olam l'or agayim. You'll be a light unto the nations. And then we go more psukim from Shemais right before Mount Torah. You'll be a segula v'atimli malchus kaidim v'gai kadesh. All these beautiful things. How could just a small group, especially with all these people, what is that? How does a small group have such an impact on the world all around it? There's two ways to have an impact. Number one, conquest, Greece and Rome. Okay, they would conquer somebody else, so they take over. Now they're in control. Or proselytization, which was through Christianity and Islam. Okay, but Jews, we did not do that. What did we do? We never had an army. We tried to stay away from conversion as much as possible. We never conquered anybody else. We never did anything of the sort. So it doesn't make sense how we can have a profound impact. Besides all this, we still did have a profound impact. Listen, this is Colin Powell, Secretary of State, former Secretary of the United States. You're not going to be able to hear it. He says the story how what inspired him to go to school and actually get an education. You're not going to be able to hear the whole story because it's very low. But he says, because I worked in a toy store for an old Hasidic Jew, and he told me, that's it, you're not working for it anymore, you're going to college, and you're going to have an education. This man made it to be the Secretary of the United States. What did we teach the world? We taught the world monotheism, which is arguably believed by more than half of the world. It comes from us. The fact that there's one God, and that's why we should all be good people, okay? Jewish concepts that we introduce to the world. The majority have, through the world, that have been accepted from Yiddishkeit. We are all children of Hashem, therefore we have fundamental responsibility towards each other. Love thy neighbor as thyself. A Jewish, as we saw in last week's parasha, a Jewish, not a Christian idea. That society must be committed to truth, justice, and fair trials for everyone. Fair trials for everyone. Anyway, all people have free and unlimited potential for greatness. Declaration, when it says all men, right, are created by the Creator, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Yiddishkeit has been having schools, education, all that for the last 150 years, tzedakah, while the secular Western world have only adapted it about 150 years ago. We should seek peace, not war. Judaism taught that the hero role model of society should be the scholar, teacher, and the righteous person, not the one who killed the most warriors. Again, another Jewish idea. Hold on a second, I thought this was the Torah. Why are you saying the Jews spread these words? Okay, so let's try this. Let's try separating the Torah from the Jews. We sadly saw in the last 150 years with the Haskalah movements, Jews' enlightenment, all that kind of stuff, that Jews have forgotten the Torah. Did they still have an impact on the world around them? Let's take these three people: Karl Marx, Sigmund Freud, Albert Einstein. Okay? These people probably were one of the three most influential people of the last century. Now, I have a little... As my experience growing up in Chaim, Berlin, the last 100 years, these three people remind me of the three types of bachrim in the yeshiva. One, the festy yeshivish guy. Two, the stoltzy guy who's smoking, not letting the younger bachrim in. And the wacko. Yeah? Okay? These three people, what are the chances? This is a lot of reading. I'm going to say it down. The fact that there will be one person to have impact on the world is 1 in 200. The second one having impact is 1 in 40,000. And the third being 1 in 8 million. What are the chances that Jews will have such an impact on the world? Following all that we said. Okay, 23% of Nobel Prizes have been given to Jews. Jews have, the BDS, the boycott movements, they should not be using cell phones because cell phones were developed in Israel. Waze was developed I use Waze today, it was developed in Israel. What, they use Waze? Yeah. We were ones, even though Jews were not connected to Torah, they still had a profound impact on the world. I don't want to dwell on this too much, but we can look around how much Jews actually had an impact on the world. It is amazing. Wonder number 6, the interdependency of the Jewish people and the land of Eretz Yisrael. We have a lot of psukim telling us how the land is going to prosper in Eretz Yisrael. Okay? And during the Teicha, when the Goyim tried to conquer it, it will be devastating. The enemies will be appalled by it, aghast by it. They won't even want to be there. Okay? So how can we say that the enemies of the Jewish people, if the land was so great, how can we say the enemies will not want to be there? Either the land of Eretz Yisrael being in a poor location, in a poor location, or the land of Israel being very difficult to cultivate, which both are not true. It's good land, and it's in the best location. Obviously, we know Eretz Yisrael is smack in the middle of 3 continents, right over here. Major trade routes go through. Obviously, hopefully a ship doesn't get stuck again, so you can be able to get through Europe, Africa, and Asia. It is central location. It is great location. Everybody has tried to conquer it. And we know, obviously, that the land is very good. It produces a surplus. We have to ship out of Eretz Yisrael. I say we because I'm Israeli. We have to ship out of Eretz Yisrael as much, I think it was like 20 or 30% of produce that we produce because we were producing a surplus. The land is amazingly good. The Ramban came after, obviously, the Churban Abayis. The Ramban came to Eretz Yisrael, and he saw a devastation. He looked around and he said, this cannot be. This doesn't make any sense. Why is this land desolate? It's good land in a good location. Not only that, again, Marky Mark made an appearance, made a trip to Eretz Yisrael, and he wrote as well, this land is laying in ruins. This land is terrible. Okay? How could such a blessing phenomenon have occurred? How could the Torah possibly predict that it would happen? Okay? And we see, obviously, it did happen. When the Jews came back to Eretz Yisrael, we know that the land's prospering. Like I said, now there's a surplus. The land is doing amazing. You should go visit. Wonder number 7, and we're almost done, the return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel. Now, do not get political with me. I am not getting political with you. But many of our Gedolim on all sides have said that the return of the Jewish people to Eretz Yisrael is the beginning of Ikvasid the Mashiach, that there is something going on, which is the Chaim Itzkowitz. Hashem will return you to the land of Eretz Yisrael. This is a kiyum to the land of Eretz Yisraal. We do have the opportunity to live there, to learn there, to make a livelihood, to bring up children over there. This is a beginning, as all the Gedolim have said, obviously not the Satmaras, but everybody has said that this is the beginning of Ikvasid Mashiach, that we have the opportunity to go back to Eretz Yisrael. May we be zeicha to be there one day. Obviously, we see from this that these 7 things, no human could ever have predicted them. It can only come from the divine, because no one would accept this 3,300 years ago if there's not backing or basis that this could happen all the way through the end of time. And we see, all these things that it spells in the Torah as nevuos, which seems to be contradictions to one another, have happened, and we're still here. These are the 7 wonders, guys. Thank you for listening. Yeah, I'm actually clean shaven.
Well, you're generally